Welcome back to the channel here at Pinwheel. With over 1 million views in aggregate and probably many more on Passipedia.com, the Passive House Explained video in 90 seconds goes way beyond any success that I've ever dreamt of. It's been played in many trade and architectural schools. So today I thought I would address a few things of that video that always bring up questions and just do a commentary on that video. My idea was to actually come to you here from Germany from a passive house project that is a commercial building, but unfortunately I wasn't able to get permission. The building's in the back here, but as I said, I was not able to get permission from the owner, and the owner's on vacation, so there's nothing I could do about that, so I didn't want to violate the privacy. So no fancy, cool video from a passive house, but I still want to address some of the questions that keep coming up about the Passive House Explained video. So let's get into it. Alright, so I'm going to be playing the video here and then just stop it for my commentary. When I made this video, I had not studied for my Passive House certification yet, or I had not received the certification yet. I just started to study. And that actually turned out to be an advantage. I wasn't in expert idiot mode yet. So I wanted to really create a video that explains Passive House to any layman out there. It doesn't require an engineering degree. You don't need to be an architect. A lot of these things are simplified. So let's roll the video.
Passive House Explained in 90 seconds.
Fun fact, I created this beginning section at the end of the video, and then I created a fake thumbnail where I positioned my hand on the D. Because obviously I drew out the first two words, or the first two lines first, and then the last one, and I never actually touched the D again. That's the only fake thing. This entire video I actually created in real time, drawing this out by hand and then sped it up to match the words.
Does your house have a heater in the basement or maybe a fireplace? Probably also a central air conditioner or maybe a window unit. Did you ever wonder if it was necessary? In 1991...
Alright, first comment I always get, 1991 was not the first passive house. In fact, 1991, the first passive house was built. There's other buildings before that were similar to a passive house or that acted just like a passive house, but they weren't called a passive house. That was in fact the first project that Dr. Wolfgang Feist himself called a passive house. So in order to explain a little bit of the history of Passive House, it was in fact based on a few other projects. One very notable one is the Saskatchewan Conservation House by Harold Orr in Canada. Bo Adamson was also a very big contributor to this, and that's how Passive House came to be. Just for the record, 1991 was in fact the first passive house that was built in Darmstadt, Germany, and that was called a passive house as well. Alright, next comment I always get when I say
a physicist in Austria.
A physicist in Austria. And people say, ooh, but Dr. Feist was German and he was in Germany and all that kind of stuff. Yes, you're 100% correct. Dr. Feist is German, but I didn't say an Austrian physicist. I said a physicist in Austria. And I wish I had worded it differently. I actually created a new version of the video where I changed that. But here are the reasons why I said that, and I thought about it carefully. Germans are very reserved about their achievements, and that's at least how I grew up. And I didn't want to just say, oh, look at us Germans, we've created this awesome passive house standard again, and we're just the best, and we come up with the best houses. So I didn't want to tap ourselves on the shoulder. Secondly, I actually talked to Dr. Feist about that. He was teaching in Innsbruck, Austria. He was also hired by the university in Innsbruck, as much as I understand, to teach there. And so a lot of his passive house influence was in fact in Austria. Yes, he is German, but he taught in Innsbruck. The love of the mountains close by, the Austrian Alps, made him move there as well. So it's actually correct when I say a physicist in Austria. Yes, he built the first passive house in Darmstadt in Germany, and he is German. So it's not incorrect when I say a physicist in Austria. Yeah, was probably a mistake. I should have said first passive house was built in Germany by a guy from Germany. But that's what I did, and that's how it is, and everybody comments on that. By the way, Dr. Feist himself commented on my video. He liked it, and he didn't correct me. He also asked me to use the video on the start page of Passipedia, and it's sat there since 2013-ish, 2014, ever since, where it's explained the passive house concept in 90 seconds to many, many people.
Add all these things up, and it turns out your house doesn't need a heater or air conditioner.
Here, I just wanted to make a comment on how I created this video. I had to be very careful here not to get my face into that. You can actually see at the bottom left, you can see a little bit of my glasses. But I actually created this video in about a week's worth of time in my basement. I just really quickly wanted to show you how I did a whiteboard video. I laid my whiteboard down. Obviously it makes a lot more sense to draw it down when it's just laying there. So I just laid it down on a big table here, so I could shift it around and create these slight movement effects. And then I played around with a few lights, two 500 watt construction lights here, and then I ended up just mounting the camera right here in the ceiling, and that looks right down on the whiteboard, so you can just draw around on the whiteboard. MF indicates that it's manual focus, because the camera kept on focusing and refocusing when it was just white, and it was very annoying. Actually, it was even doing it when you were just drawing something up here, and it gets really confused, so it gets out of focus and into focus all the time. I also ended up putting marks on the table, on the whiteboard, so I knew exactly where to zoom out to again later. Very important, because if you botch up a scene where you're panning stuff around, that you have something to go back to. I still ended up making lots of mistakes, obviously. Of course, before you start, you have to actually figure out what you're doing. So I drew it out and figured out exactly. I got little numbers here as to what I did and how I went around with it. I did this, then I recorded the audio version, and then everything orients itself on the audio version. So yeah, have fun with that stuff. Originally I intended to make this video in 60 seconds, but I just couldn't pack in the words in 60 seconds. So it was good that I made the opening shot at the end of the video, because I was able to say Passive House explained in 90 seconds, even though my wish was Passive House explained in 60 seconds.
So where does the heat come from? A passive house needs 90% less energy, and that can easily be supplied by your body heat, the sun, your appliances, light bulbs, and even your TV.
Hey, there's a lot of questions always coming up about how passive house actually work, and it doesn't work, or it does work only certain ways, or it doesn't work in the heat, and this and that. I'll get back to that later. I'll actually touch on the comments and then give more explanations on the technical details of how passive house works. I already explained earlier that I created the thumbnail for the video at the end, and then I put my hand in there and shot that picture for the thumbnail. Back then, YouTube didn't allow to put separate thumbnails in a video, so it was just the centermost frame. And I'd actually originally published this video on Vimeo. I was also very specific, saying that I have Creative Commons License 3.0, which allows anybody to take the video, to modify it. I just wanted to get credit for it. But yeah, so I do encourage anybody that wants to use it for any purpose of theirs. You can use it, you mix it, edit this and blah, blah, blah. You can do all that fine stuff that Creative Commons License 3.0 allows you. Just please credit me. It took me a week to make this video. It's helped a lot of people. And so be awesome if you did use it, but just credit me. On that note, by the way, so far it's been translated to about 8 languages. It would be cool to get even more. Maybe the video has lost a little bit of its steam, but if you need a language and you speak that language, reach out to me. We can somehow figure out to put a different language underneath it. I actually prefer that it's not done in subtitles, because it's tricky to look both at the visuals of the video and read the subtitle. In my opinion, it's actually much better to record a completely new audio track over top of it.
Did we make it in 90 seconds?
You bet we did. Anyways, that's all I wanted to say on that video. I appreciate all the comments that you've made over the years. Check out all the different languages. Maybe there's one language that you'd like to see, and then we can somehow figure out to create a new one. I've got all the links to all the different languages on a separate YouTube channel. I also have the link to the original video on YouTube or on Vimeo. On Vimeo, you can actually download it and do whatever you want with it. Let me know what you think about the video. Was it worth all these comments? Till the next time.